Good day, my friends. Let's learn something new today. Wonderful. You get two kinds of sales tax. The one is called a general sales tax, and of course the other one is called VAT, right, or value added tax. Now in this lesson we're only going to be talking about GST, the general sales tax. Great, let's get it going. Right, yeah, we've got it. General sales tax is now better known as GST. So let's have a look at it. Our learning objectives for the lesson is going to be, of course, to define GST and explain its purpose, and how to calculate GST on a given price, and to understand how GST is added to the final price of goods and services, and of course apply GST calculations to real-world scenarios. Wow, that's a whole lot said, guys. Righto, what is GST? Let's firstly look at what is GST. General sales tax, or GST, is a tax levied on the supply of most goods and services. Not all countries use GST. Right? As I said, we get two kinds of tax. That is GST and VAT. Now, many countries don't use GST at all. The reasons for this will become apparent in the next lesson. It's a consumption-based tax, meaning it is paid by the final consumer. It's simple to implement and control, but it has loopholes. The government uses the collected GST revenue to fund public services like education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Right, let's have a look at how does GST work and how is it put together, how GST works. Righto, firstly, we will be having somebody, a supplier of materials, somebody that supplies the materials like this guy over here. We're going to be looking at an example case of somebody making furniture and selling the furniture. So yeah, we've got somebody that's cutting the trees down. He's got a sawmill where they're cutting the trees or the into planks from all the trees that's been cut down, and then of course he's going to be supplying it over to the manufacturer, the guy that makes the furniture, or the factory that makes the furniture. Right, so at this point of time there's no tax being paid anywhere over here, right? And now they've got the guy, he has bought the wood by this, the planks and the materials by this guy over here, and now he makes his goods. From his goods he's going to supply to the shop. Alright, now he is selling his goods again to the shop. Now even like from he didn't pay any tax, he didn't pay any tax either. So now the goods are in the shop, where the seller of the goods is the point where the consumer pays the GST. So this is now the very first time that anybody will be paying tax on these chairs or on the materials or whatever that has been made and produced and then coming to the shop to be sold. So now if this guy over here with the shop is a little bit dishonest and he crooks his books a little bit, the government doesn't get all the GST over here. All the GST goes lost to the government. And that is a loophole that I was talking about a little bit earlier on. Now, this is the way that general sales tax works, and in, like I said to you, many countries they do follow it on this principle over here. Now, let's have a look at the GST rate, right? And that is the percentage that you normally pay. Every country has a different rate of GST. It varies from about 8% up to 20+%. It can vary from country to country. Some countries have a very low percentage of GST, other countries have a very high percentage. It depends. This rate of GST is applied to most goods, products and services. However, there are some goods or products and services that are exempted from GST. There are certain goods, we'll see, have a look at them now, where you don't have to pay GST on it. And that is educational materials. This can include textbooks, school supplies and educational equipment, right? It all depends. And of course, essential goods. These are items considered necessary for basic living, such as certain foods, not all foods, certain foods, water and medicine. This is something you have to check up with your own country and your own government, because it will differ from country to country. And once again, Medical supplies and services. This can include medical equipment, prescription drugs, and healthcare services. Once again, guys, this is something you'll have to check up with every country. It will differ. And of course, religious items and export goods. Many things that you export it will be GST free. Some stuff that you do export will have to be charged GST on it. It all depends on your country's laws. Now let's go further and let's see how calculating the GST. The basic calculation is very simple actually. The formula is the GST amount, that's the amount of what you are selling, the goods cost, equals price times the GST rate, of course. Right, let's have a look at an example. If the price of a product is $100 and the GST rate is 10%, then the GST amount is $100 times the 10%, which equals us with $10. That's just explanation over here. 100 times 10 divided by 100 to bring it to a decimal, and then you could get $10. Calculating the final price, of course, is going to be pretty easy. The final price is the sum of the original price and the GST amount. So you're going to be taking the same example we used above there. The final price would be the $100, which is the selling price of the goods, plus a $10 VAT or GST that we reckoned calculated, so it gives a total selling price of $110. Good. And let's have a look at some real world examples on how GST works. Righto. Let's look at a shopping scenario. Now at this point I think it be good to pause the video and complete the invoice, and the rate of the GST will be 8%. Here is the invoice. So as I said over here, I think it's a good time now to pause the video and to complete the invoice. So what you have to do is you have to calculate out the amounts, calculate the GST, and get the final balance that is due. Right, guys, I think it's a very good time now to pause the video. Thank you.
Hey, you must pause the video.
Okay, now that you have completed your real world scenario, or the real world example at least, put it this way, the shopping scenario, here is your tax invoice, and now of course, the first one of course was $1,200, but there's two sets, so it's $2,400. The next one is 3 pieces at $400, gives us $1,200. So our total is $3,600. The GST amount calculated at the 8%, if I can remember correctly, was $288. So our total amount is $3,888, and the total amount that is due is at there as nothing has been paid. Now at this point, guys, I think it's good to compare your answer and correct if needed. So if you are correct and there's no problems, let's move on to the next one. Once again, a real world example, but this time we're going to be looking at a service-based example. Once again, let's pause the video and design a GST invoice for a haircut that costs $30, and the GST rate is 12% this time. Wow, this is quite a task. Anyhow, guys, pause the video, do it, and then we'll compare the answer again at the end.
Hey, you must pause the video.
Once again, let's have a look at our real world example of the service-based example. That is where somebody does something for you, like a plumber, a haircut, or whatever the case might be. So check your work, and if it's not similar to this one, please correct it. So all that's very important over here, all this other stuff here is just for fancy. All that's really important that you show, right? This has been a haircut. It was one for $30, and of course we've got our tax rate, which we worked out our tax over here, which was 12%. 12% of the $30 is $3.60 that gets added onto that, and the consumer must pay $33.60. Now guys, this is where GST is very, very strange, okay, and this is where the loopholes come into it. A lot of times a place like hair salon will definitely not be paying all this tax over to the government. They will definitely take shortcuts. Righto guys, with that said, that is, we've covered GST and how GST works, how to cover GST, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have learned something and gained something by it. The next video coming up would be all about VAT.